I've got Kenny Mammarella-D'Cruz with me in the studio, a.k.a. the Man Whisperer. Now, that tune there, do you know that's actually called Man Friday?
Is it?
Yeah.
Such a funky tune.
It's funky tune, but we're honouring you.
Very manly.
Very, very manly, very cool. By Sid, the producer's telling me it's by Sid Dale. Okay, it didn't sound like it was by Sid Dale, I'll be honest. Sid Dale sounds like a guy who used to work at a mill. No offence to Northern people, of course. But in this bit of the show, basically, we should reintroduce the point of the show. I've said before that you're my Yoda for blokes. It's Svengali of masculinity. And we talk about serious issues facing men, but we also I usually undercut it with something immature if I feel that the pressure is building. And then we talk about some of the more fun stuff in the second quarter of the half hour. So you and I haven't seen each other since Adolescence came out. Yeah. So this show comes out, and a lot of it is about masculinity, young masculinity. We're seeing the word toxic masculinity get thrown around. Andrew Tate is back as a reference point. I just want to find out, first up, it's been a phenomenon. I mean, it was the most watched show, including terrestrial, in this country within a given week, which I don't think has happened before with Netflix. What did you think of it?
I thought it was absolutely amazing. And what an insight into the world of boys. The whole show showed that the police had no idea what was going on. The policeman's son had to introduce him into what's really going on. And for me, to be frank, being on this show with you right now, I feel scared. And I would say a lot of the show was about blokes being scared of being in trouble. So to be saying things that might be controversial and might get me in trouble, it's scary. And I would say another huge theme in the show is blokes aren't being heard. Boys aren't being heard. They've got nowhere to go apart from, I guess, they go to the internet, and then they're in God knows what funnels and
you make an interesting
wormholes.
Point there about boys not being heard. So there's this moment where the fate or the plight indeed of young males gets its moment in the media sun. Was there a degree to which people went into their safe spaces of just saying the word toxic masculinity and just saying Andrew Tate? I personally think that Andrew Tate is probably one that the younger lads have moved on from. I'm not saying there aren't influencers out there, but it's probably not ones that we've heard of. Was there a degree to which you felt that there was a moment where we could empathise with the plight of boys, and we didn't seize that moment fully?
Totally. And I would say, this is one of the dangerous things to say, that the toxic femininity demanded toxic masculinity. And the toxic femininity was humiliation, abandonment, exclusion, and it just broke the boy. It totally
So
broke
you're
him.
saying in terms of the story of the boy?
Yeah.
So it didn't demand it. Obviously,
that was his reaction.
The extremity of the reaction is never, obviously, not something we would endorse. But it was a part of the story. Yeah. And I guess what the boys are potentially facing is males often don't do that well with humiliation, but they're facing it in a context which is more turbocharged than anything we've ever known. So instead of having several people reject you around you, it could be several thousand. Yeah. Is the teenage male mind equipped to handle that?
No. It's the desperation. I mean, even in the scene right at the end when he was with the psychologist, and he needed to know that she liked him. He just needed some popularity. The way that the boys were finding out from the adults, whether male or female, were you popular? You must have been popular. How did you do? It was all about popularity. It was all about acceptance. It was all about being one of the crowd. It was all about the pecking order. And they knew, as far as they were concerned, and they were told, they are not one of the 20% of males that the females want. They're one of the 80%, and they're no hopers, and that's the end of their lives. So they were desperate.
But what's different? Because that would have always been the case on some level. This is a theory that the show delves in, is that I guess it's demoralising for certain males that 20% of males are attractive to 80% of women. Yeah. But that's kind of always been the case, somebody needs to be around to tell them as they get older that things change, people pair off. Not all the women can have those blokes. Let's be honest, compromise comes into it a little bit. I just wonder if we really focused on the things. Obviously, the character in that was a hideous character in some ways because of the awful thing that he did. But we really need to look at the broader trends, don't we, with boys? And, growing up in homes without a father figure, these are the biggest things, right? Poor educational performance over a long period of time. For most boys, those are going to be the things that impact their lives more maybe than more than social media and porn.
Yeah. And I'd say one of the most important things about a father figure is a father can show boundaries. A father can show how to manage and regulate anger and rage and how to be a masculine male. And because there aren't places for boys to go to know how to express their masculinity, they end up with tape. They end up with who's doing it in the extreme because it's so suppressed. They don't know. When I've worked with children or boys in boarding schools, and when I work with men, they show up with what's wrong with me and how do I do me right. They just want to be accepted and included. And what we saw was just a desperate boy. And another thing that I think is really important to note is something took him over, another part of him that we saw with the psychologist where he lost it and suddenly he was enraged. From being a nice little boy who needs approval, he was enraged, he was scary, he was angry, he was throwing things around. It's like something flipped in him. Something took him over. So it's not just meeting boys, it's meeting different parts. It's meeting people in their places of rage, of fear, of self-loathing, where generally those are the secret places that brew and get suppressed, and then they go bang. And it's very, very dangerous.
I mean, Fraser Nelson of The Times wrote a brilliant article about the importance of father figures. Obviously, it doesn't have to be biological fathers, just a father figure within the household. But there does seem to be an issue with certain mainstream media outlets is that they bridle a little bit. When you talk about the importance of fathers, the data is there. People are 3 times more likely to grow up with mental health problems if they don't have a father figure. And yet 50% of homes don't have one. Then teenage boys are more likely to have a smartphone than a father figure at home. But people tend to worry that, well, if we point that out, are we digging out single mothers? Which of course we're not, but if we care about the plight of young males and we want their psychological health to improve, we have to be honest about the things that affect them.
Yeah. I mean, and this comes around to the importance of community. This might be beyond the family. And in the old days, maybe it'd be in the village, maybe it'd be in the church, maybe it'd be in the community centre, in the community hall, whatever. But there were communities. Now it's broken down. Now we don't even have families. People are in front of different screens. And in both cases, with the policeman and with the boy who murdered, the fathers were busy working. They were absent fathers. The boys needed their fathers. They wanted their fathers. He wanted to please his father and the approval of his father. So the fathers were there. They loved and they cared, but the boys didn't know it, and there was no meeting. They didn't have a father to meet them and hold them and show them. In fact, Jamie, the main character's father, was embarrassed because he wasn't good at sports. He wasn't bloke enough. It's not, how do I do me right? It's like, who are you? Who he was is a sensitive, creative boy who's obviously rubbish at sports. But he needed the boy to be upping his own masculinity as his father, and he couldn't look when he wasn't good enough. He didn't like the other fathers laughing at his boy and looking at him.
One thing I worry about with the dialogue is if, for example, teenage boys were tuning in over the last couple of weeks and saying, oh, we're being discussed as a group in society, what are people saying? And a lot of it tended to go down the road of men tell boys it's okay to cry, tell them it's okay to have feelings. Good messages, but ones we've had for quite a while. That's not a new message. That's not a radical thing to say. I feel like we've been saying that for quite some time now, and yet that period of time has corresponded with things getting worse for boys. So do we just need to accept that testosterone is a hormone that's prevalent and its peak at that age, and it creates certain behaviours? Aggression, risk-taking, but it's for us as a society to channel those and take the dangerous elements out of them.
Absolutely. Rage, anger, it's raw energy that needs to be held and grounded and directed, not taken over by people. And boys and men need to be taught this. And for me, the difference between a boy and a man, irrespective of age, is the man includes the feminine aspect. It's not all competition. It's not all fear reaction. It's collaboration, and there can be love and there can be response. It's being present rather than fearing the future and wanting to stay out of trouble.
You've been doing your men's groups, both in person and online, for some time. By the way, if people want to check those out, where can they find them?
Mensgroups.co.uk for the groups.
And now you've seen several generations come through. You know,
Yeah.
you've seen Millennial and Gen Z men.
Yeah.
What are your fears for the kind of generation that the main character of Adolescence is based around? Because they would have had academic outcomes that are a lot worse than any before.
Yeah. Rather than the fears, I spoke to a bloke the other day in his mid-20s. When he first started coming to groups, he didn't realise it, but he hated women. He had lots of sex with women. He used women, and he didn't even realise it. They were disposed of. What is wonderful about this story is he now realises it. He's stopped it. He's unwired that rage, and now he connects with people. He's also a facilitator. He holds groups now. But it's like, this isn't the end. Yeah, boys, I've been told for a long time they need to cry, but who shows them? Where is the space for them to cry? It's nice theory.
But also to say that I accept that maybe you don't want to cry, and let's talk about that. Because just continually saying, oh, it's okay to cry, it's not an answer in itself. I mean, look, it's always interesting to chat.
And it's being heard. It's not just crying, it's being heard. And why say anything if no one's going to listen?
No, I think it's really interesting to chat, and you've always got a unique insight as the man whisperer. See, we spoke before about the importance of fitness to younger men.
Yeah.
Can it become an obsession?
Totally. Body dysmorphia is a big deal, a big addiction.
I should say, neither of you guys are like absolute beefcakes. Like you look good. Lads.
I used to be.
Oh wow!
I used to be. No, I feel like a lot of guys that go to the gym, they look up to their idols on Instagram, and that can be dangerous because a lot of these guys, they're portraying something they're not. Let's be honest, and it can be a slippery slope for a lot of guys that are idolising these people they see on Instagram, and they're trying to compete with them. And comparison's a thief of joy. Yeah, and unless you're happy on yourself, you're never going to be content.
But you're seeing that in group, because I get the sense there's something that just can't feel okay unless they've exercised.
Totally. It's like it's part of the sales pitch, and it was part of adolescence. It's like the big guys get the girls, the rich guys get the girls, the smart guys get the girls. It's like, how can I be good enough? And it's all about confidence. In a previous life, I was marketing manager for Maxi Muscle a long time ago.
Yeah,
and it was murky. The stuff that people used to take in order to feel better about themselves. Small people, big muscles, and it's like, okay, now am I good enough? But what you're doing sounds like fun.
Yes.
And it sounds sexy.
What we say, we're trying to make fitness fun.